It's Christmas Eve morning, and it's a little bit frosty, a lot foggy. You see out here, and should be able to see farmhouses out there normally, but not today. Not today. So I'm going to go inside and make some Christmas braids. Hi, Hedgie. Good morning. Grizz? Now let's get started. This is my basic sweet dough. What I use for, as you see, dinner rolls, cinnamon rolls, and the only difference in making my Christmas braid is that I double the butter. This is what a lot of my recipes look like. Originally typed and then scribbles all over the place. I need to retype it. First thing I'll do is put the 1/3 cup of sugar inside the bread machine. And then I need to warm up the milk in the microwave. I'm just going to put the stick of butter in there too. Yeah, I'll unwrap it first and warm that up also. And then a teaspoon of salt and a couple of eggs. We'll dump that all inside the bread machine pan. That fits. I use these pint jars a lot for rough measuring. That doesn't have to be exact. As you see, it has, where's the marks? It has marks on the side. So half cup. So I put a cup of milk in there, put the butter in there, and this is a microwave safe jar, so that makes it nice. Well, I got interrupted and left that in a little too long. It's not going to matter. It doesn't really have to be completely melted. Oh, there, it's not completely melted. It just needs to be softened. It doesn't need to be that melted. Just so it's not quite so refrigerator hard. Okay, what do I need next? Oh, it did call for a 1/4 cup of water, so let's pour that in too. And then a teaspoon of salt and 2 eggs. That's next. I just crack the eggs right into the same pint jar. All right, and now comes the flour and then the yeast, and I'll put some dough conditioner in there too. Normally for this dough I use 1 part of wheat to 3 parts of white, but this time I think I'll just use all white flour, which is going to be King Arthur bread flour. You don't want to put the whole amount of flour in at once. No, you need to, I'll put maybe 3 out of the 4 cups in. Put the yeast on top. Measurements don't really matter exactly because I'm going to be looking at the dough and deciding how much flour I have to add. Yeast dough is kind of like that. You can't just measure it out exactly. Okay, let me go get the yeast and the dough conditioner, and then I'll get the dough started. Okay, on top of the flour, let's get a tablespoon of yeast. I buy yeast from Costco in it's either a pound or 2-pound sack. I store it in the refrigerator. Keeps a long time. There's that. And then my dough conditioner that I buy at the Amish store. About a tablespoon of that too. This bread machine will only work when the lid is closed. So let's select the dough course again. And dough, there we go. It's been mixing for a little bit, and as you can see, it's going to take quite a bit more flour. Let's put another 3/4 cup in there. I was really happy to see that Costco had King Arthur flour in big 12-pound bags. I bought 3 of them, but I wish I had bought a few more. If they still have them over this Christmas break, I'll have to get some more. Okay, let's give that a try. It is still completely slack, not forming a ball at all. You don't want to get too much flour in though, because you can't. It's easier to keep adding flour than it is to try to add liquid once it's too dry. A little bit better, starting to pull away from the edges. Let's keep adding. If I left it in the bread machine for the entire dough setting, that would take about an hour. I don't really like it over mixing that way. I like the more gentle way of mixing it with the fold method. Okay, this doesn't have enough flour in it yet, but this is where I want it. Yeah, see the fingers stay pretty clean. This is where I want it to put it over then into the plastic bowl. Let's go. All right, plopped it into the bowl. And now what I'm going to do is just same thing that we did with the rye bread. All right, just fold it once, fold it again, turn it, flip it. All right, now I'm going to set the timer for about 10-12 minutes. Let it soak up that flour a little bit at a time, and then I'll keep doing this. If I need to add a little bit more flour, I will. If I don't need to, I won't. Until it gets nice and smooth. This is not bad, but you see it's still a little bit slack. And I poke it, and it stays poked. It needs to be a little tighter than that, a little bit more elastic than that. Our dough is going to take a long time, but I can get the filling ready now, especially since the butter is really hard and it needs to sort of come to room temperature. So, half stick of butter, take a cup of brown sugar, a tablespoon of cinnamon, and a cup of chopped pecans. My brother-in-law brought me some really good pecans from Georgia. I will use a cup of those. Mix in the cinnamon with the brown sugar, and then butter. That's going to have to soften up a little bit first. We'll let that go for now. Let it soften to room temperature, and then I'll blend that in. As far as the pecans go, aren't they beautiful? Yeah, these are really nice. I will chop these up. You don't want them whole for this. It's not a pecan pie. And I don't know if that's a good idea to use this to chop. We may use my other knife. I'll see. Anyway, as far as the rest of the pecans, these wonderful Georgia pecans, I will store them as I store all my nuts, almonds, walnuts, whatever, in glass jars. Oh, that's perfect. In glass jars in the freezer, and that way they will keep for a good long while. 10 minutes are up. I gently folded the dough again. Let's check it now. Yeah, it's springing back a little bit. Springing back. This is what we're looking for. Coarse chop. Not too fine, but not left whole. I switched out knives. The other one was not long enough. And I switched out bowls. That was not big enough, and it was starting to overflow the bowl, and I was trying to mix it. And this is starting to work up a little. Still pretty tough. I keep using a knife to scrape off the pastry blender. You can just use your hands for this also, which I may end up doing. Let's see what it feels like. Yeah. My hands are always clean when I'm working in the kitchen. This is enough filling for 2 regular sized tea rings or 4 mini ones. I'm going to make 4 mini ones because that way I can freeze the other 3, leave one out, and they can be eaten pretty much at one sitting. I folded this one more time. Now it springs back nicely now. Now we're done. I didn't even have to add any more flour to it. It's a very soft, very rich dough. I think it's going to work up beautifully, beautifully. So now I just have to let it rise until doubled. The dough is raised perfectly now. Okay, doubled in size. Now comes the fun part. Remember, I said I was going to make 4 mini loaves. If I was making these to sell, I would weigh them out. But since it's just for a family, it doesn't really matter if they're equal in size. I can tell right now they're not going to be equal in size. Okay, so I've got 4 portions here. I will put 3 of them back in the bowl. It's not very much dough. It's not very much dough at all. But it'll still make a nice little mini ring. A little bit of flour. A little bit of flour on my silpat. Oh, this dough is really nice. Okay, and then I'll use my rolling pin and roll it to a rectangle shape. It's not going to be since this is a mini one, it's not going to be as big as the whole silpat. Okay, this looks really good. Okay. I'll square it off a little bit so it's a rectangle. And that looks good. Okay. There we go. It's a nice square. Now I'll sort of, with my fingers, kind of divide the middle part. Make like a, yeah, you can't see that. Sort of just make a line in the middle to put the pecan. Have to divide the pecan filling, the cinnamon pecan butter filling in thirds also. Okay, it looks about like that. And then I'm going to cut slits. Then I'm going to cut 1-inch slits on each side and then fold them over on each other. So, slit here, slit here, slit here, slit here. This is This is the tricky part about making Danish braids or Christmas braids. When they leak, then all this good stuff in the middle ends up on the cookie sheet, on the pan, and not in the Christmas braid. So you just one side over the other. I will show you a close-up of what this looks like then. So just overlapping, kind of like a lattice. Now they say it's supposed to look like the swaddled baby Jesus. Okay, pinch it shut. There, can you see that? That's what it looks like. It's very small, very small. We'll make 3 more of these, put them on parchment paper on the cookie sheets, and let them rise again until doubled. Braids are ready to rise. Cover them with plastic wrap. Actually, this is a bread sack cut in half, and then a tea towel. You could dampen a tea towel and just use that. Just want to make sure that the dough doesn't dry out. Finally, we're ready to go in the oven. I started this process around 8 o'clock, a little before that even, and it is now 5 hours later at 1 o'clock. We are ready to bake. I have to flip these about halfway through so that they will get done on both top and bottom. While the Christmas braids, the Danish braids, are baking, we have one more thing to do, and that is to make the icing. I won't ice them until they're completely cold, but we can get it started. You need to heat up a half cup of milk and a 1/4 cup of butter. Heat that up, and then we will stir in about 2 pounds of powdered sugar and a little bit of vanilla. I will use this butter vanilla emulsion. If you have white vanilla, that makes it a very, very pretty color. It looks like snow. The milk is hot. Butter is melted. Melted enough. Melted enough. Now I'll dump in some powdered sugar. You could beat this if you wanted it really nice and fluffy. You could put it in a stand mixer, or you could use a hand mixer. I'm just going to mix it with a fork. I don't know, until I get it the right consistency. It takes a lot of powdered sugar. This is still very, very soupy. Let's dump some more in. I could, while it's still liquidy, I could put in the vanilla right now too. Maybe about a teaspoon of vanilla. All right, I've stirred this up, and I think it could be just a little bit thicker. You could make this into a glaze, and just sort of drizzle it, which is very pretty like that. My family likes lots and lots of icing, sadly. So we'll put a thick layer on until it looks like it has like an inch of snow on top of it. When I made tea rings, Christmas braids to sell, I used to decorate them with either maraschino cherries. That's what my mom used. Put them on some paper toweling so they're completely dry. Or else candied cherries, candied red cherries for the berries, and then candied green cherries for holly leaves. This has way too much artificial stuff and food coloring in for me now. In fact, these are 10 years old. And these, I believe it said the use by date was 09. So, wait, these are 10 years old. These are 07. These are 12 years old. Yeah, we're dumping both of these. We're not going to use them. I'm just going to decorate with pecan halves. And they're finished. All 4 of them. All that we're waiting for now is just so that they cool off enough. Cool enough to ice now. And the icing's pretty thick. So I just put it on with my hands. Just kind of smear it over. And there we are. 6 hours from the time that I began. Are finished 4 mini Christmas braids. Shall I cut off a corner so you can see what it looks like? Let's do that. Okay, I cut off a corner so you can see maybe a little bit better what it looks like on the inside. Here's the heel. Believe me, it's as delicious, tastes as delicious as it looks. Merry Christmas to you all. May you have a wonderful and blessed Christmas. Here from Lori Fiechter at my Indiana Kitchen.